Mm. Good morning. Welcome to Viking Preparedness. I am Pastor Joe Fox. You know what? I need to find this guy right here. Put him on the top of my cup. Not quite. Mustaches get a little bit long to drink coffee. Oh, hush. Those are my dogs. Hey, want to talk about a couple things going on in the world right now that I see as related, and then kind of bring it home maybe to some lessons learned or lessons thought about or ideas or... You know I don't script these out in advance, right? Sometimes the words escape me. And I made notes right here. So, Samoa. Ever been to Samoa? South Pacific paradise. Samoa is in the midst of a 2-day lockdown. Stores closed. Cars off the street. Ferries not working. Shops closed. Stores closed. Everybody stay home. Nobody go anywhere because of measles. There's supposedly a measles outbreak in Samoa. And Samoa is the polite words, developing nation. It's rural villages up in the hills and things like that. And they told people, hey, go ahead and hang out a red flag on your front of your door if you have unvaccinated people, unvaccinated for measles, in your home. But basically they've isolated, quarantined the whole country, if you will. They started it yesterday and it's going through tomorrow. I find that interesting. A measles outbreak. There are people saying that this measles outbreak started when they, capital T, a mass vaccination program for measles. And evidently, and I'm starting to get to the very edge of my knowledge on these types of things, I guess measles is a virus, and there can be two kinds, could probably be 1,000 kinds, but one is a mutated version of measles, which means people who are vaccinated already get it anyway, something like that. And the other one is it comes from the vaccine itself, like oops, overreaction, or oops, too strong, or something. And evidently, for epidemiologists, it's easy to tell which one it is. And they're not saying things that make you go, Could also be internet malarkey. But the truth is, there's a measles outbreak, and they've quarantined the country. In other news, green screen. I was accused of having a green screen one time for stuff like this. But I could see doing like a newscast, although, man, how many newscasters look like this, right? I'd have to clean up my act, put a suit and tie on. Oh, I could go on a digression there about coats and ties. See how long this goes. Maybe we'll circle back to it. Marshall Islands, another Pacific territory of the U.S. They use the U.S. dollar there. Had a friend stationed on the Marshall Islands for a little over a year, doing something I cannot tell you about. But I hadn't seen him for about 2 years. When I saw him, he was back, and he looked like Tarzan. He went there looking like a normal, he was an infantryman, a normal infantryman, and he came back strong. And basically, he had little to do there except run, work out, and he bought a paddleboard, I guess, that he paddled around the island and stuff. Yeah, I could go into stories on that, but they're secondhand, so... Anyway, Marshall Islands, interesting place. It's a group of islands, and the main island is only, are you ready for this? 6 feet above sea level. Well, they've been having 15-foot swells in the ocean, inundating the island, flooding it. And not only that, as if that were not enough, they have a outbreak of dengue fever, and the hospitals are full, and people have dengue fever. So that's going on. DROC, Democratic Republic of Congo. You know they have an Ebola outbreak going on there, right? And WHO and UNICEF are, doing their bit to try and make it go further. I mean, stop it by sending doctors in to treat the afflicted and, stuff like that. They are trying to help. And evidently there's these bad guys running around, Muslims, who are attacking the Western medical people. And so WHO and UNICEF just pulled out like 70 some of their staff and said, come home or come out of there. We're going to take you to a safer place. You just can't work in the hot zone anymore. As if Ebola wasn't bad enough, right? Now you got these muzzies running around killing people who are there actually trying to help people. I was just being a little bit facetious. Feeling my oats this morning. So what's going to happen now? And now these are the types of people who dig up the dead people that died of Ebola, which, have you read Hot Zone? Whew, good book, written a long time ago. They dig up these corpses whose bodily fluids are more, right? When corpses start rotting, they start liquefying initially, and they dance with them. And those bodily fluids are highly contagious or contaminated. You can get Ebola from them. So that's going on. My wife has been talking, I think she's done a couple videos on it, on the pig flu. What do they call it? The African swine fever that's affecting pigs. Not only in China, but the big news is what's going on in China. And evidently, it causes lesions and they bleed, and it's very contagious amongst pigs, and there's no vaccine for it. And so when one of your little piggies gets it, you got to slaughter the whole operation's worth. And, that's any more animal food production. Producing animals for food is done on an industrial scale. So is agriculture of all kinds. And so, they have these big pig factories, right? And so they had to slaughter a lot of pigs in China, and pork is a big part of the Chinese diet. So that's going on, and also it's going on in Eastern Europe. Same thing, African swine fever in the wild boar population. And it just passes, and they think it got into the Eastern Europeans' pig herds because of hikers leaving behind a ham sandwich or prosciutto or, whatever, that was infected. And the wild pig came up, nibbled it, and boom, it's into the population. And so it's going to really affect, because it's very contagious for pigs, it's going to really affect the pigs in Europe, all the wild boars in Russia, Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, Czech Republic. So that's going on. And I guess some diseases can hop fairly easily from pigs to humans, but evidently this isn't one of them, so they say. Okay, but it's still going to wipe out the pigs. And, they're trying to be, by 2020, we should have our pig population back up. There's a reason the Father told us not to eat those nasty things. But we can eat deer and elk. And guess what's going on there? Chronic wasting disease, where you have these little zombie deer running around that are emaciated and confused and don't know what they're doing, and they're just wasting away, and it's contagious amongst deer. And Sister Kate looked up one time. We were going to look into raising white-tailed deer here on Shofar Mountain. Can you do that? And actually, we started out looking at raising elk. We thought, man, I'd love to raise like 3 or 4 elk, eat an elk a year. Because they raise them in Kansas or Missouri. We pass a elk farm sometimes. Anyway, it's against the law. in Arkansas. Oh, OPSEC, PJ. It's against the law in Arkansas to raise elk or deer, for that matter. They raise deer in Missouri, and they sell a lot of them to Texas to game ranches. But you can't do it here. And evidently, the chronic wasting disease in this part of the Ozarks came from when they started bringing elk in, and then somehow that transferred over to the deer. Anyway, it's affecting the deer population. And so for those of us who plan on eating more venison than normal when times get hard, yeah, it may not be there. And for people in Europe who think they're going to eat wild boar, may not be there. You know, everything is dying. Did I cover everything I wanted to cover? Did you hear that for the first time in America, according to one news source, could be fake news, the name Muhammad made the top 10 list for children's names, babies' names? Yeah, last year, no, 2019, they've already compiled the results. Muhammad, number 10. Isn't that lovely? I don't remember what I said I was going to circle back to. I went on a tangent, came back. Anyway, I was watching Shield Bearer of Faith this morning, and he was talking about how the country, and I think, I watched about 2/3 of it, first responders are unprepared to deal with any kind of real crisis. And his example was if there's a GSW, a gunshot wound, it's going to take half of the force and ambulances and stuff. And if there's another one or a stabbing or something, it'll take the other half. That's on normal day-to-day today situations. And so, you know, the system is unprepared to deal with major chaos. Yeah, because the system is set up to run now, as things are now. We're not going to pay, you know, X number extra policemen, firefighters, and ambulance drivers to sit around. It's just how it is. But how prepared are you to deal with pandemic, epidemic, disease, sickness, when there is no doctor? That's a good book, by the way, Where There Is No Doctor. How prepared are you to deal with that? I'm talking long-term care. Somebody made a comment the other day here about how they put together a first aid kit. I read it very quickly, but it seemed like a decent first aid kit, you know, lots of gauze and packing material. And they said they didn't have a tourniquet because they couldn't afford one. And, you know, for the price of a tourniquet or two, they could buy this many more bandages. I get it. You can also improvise tourniquets, gang. You really can. There's a way to do it, but you can. Here's the thing. You put a tourniquet on yourself or your buddy or your spouse after the event to stop major hemorrhaging. Okay, so you did that. You turned off the leak. Good. Now what? Now what? Yeah, there's more to learn. There's a reason in the Civil War they lopped off limbs and burnt them. They didn't know about germs then, but it was just the best way to stop gangrene, because once it gets into your blood gangrene will kill you. You prepared to saw off your little girl's arm to save her life. See, these are horrific things to think about. People don't like thinking about that. They like thinking about the new flashlight or the new scope they're putting on their weapon. Yeah, this is cool, man. I got my new multicam. They don't think about the fact that they're buying this stuff to shoot at people who are probably shooting back. I'm digressing into doomer stuff. Don't worry about that. Hey, my point for this video is this. Disease is out there. We don't see a lot of it because we live in the nation we do. We don't think about it. But it's coming back. It says so in the Bible. You need to be prepared to deal with it. Start thinking about that. Start thinking about long-term care. Do you know how to change the sheets underneath somebody who's basically comatose or lying there throwing up and having diarrhea in bed? Do you know how to deal with that person? You know, people used to know how to do that in the 20s. It's like, yeah, everybody knew how to do that. Everybody took care of their sick at home. We don't know how to do that anymore. We go to the emergency room for a runny nose. Maybe it's time to start dusting off those skills. Be kind of fun. Practice with your loved one, changing the sheets under them. Okay, just lay there. I'm going to try and change the sheets. You think I'm kidding. I'm not. All right. Stay healthy. Take care of your body. I'll see you out there.